important components of human culture. Over thousands of years, built architectural wonders, each more striking than the next. Pyramids, cathedrals, mosques, each emerges from the calculations of expert architects, from the joint architecture is imparted to mankind by God are exhibited. But did you know that there are architects in nature just as skilled as their human counterparts? Attract our attention with the structure of their bodies in particular. The cheetah possesses a perfect skeleton and muscle systems for it to run. The eagle possesses the world's. The dolphin has a swim in the water. Bodies to remind us that every species of living thing is God. But possessing a body is not enough. A bird's wings are only flight, soaring, and then when we look at this, we see the animal behaves in the most appropriate manner for the conditions that surround it. Furthermore, this behavior occurs right from the moment of birth. It takes only half an hour for a newborn antelope to stand up and run. Know they have to break out of their shells and head for the surface. Furthermore, they have been taught that as soon as they emerge, they have to reach the sea. Animals come into this world fully trained. Amazing example animals have so expertly built for themselves. When you go into the country, on a enchanting beauty of flowers draws your attention. Flowers are... You come across another interesting creature. This is the honeybee, the most architects. Bees live in use one of the perfect foods, honey. They store the honey, hexagonal honey. But have you ever wondered why bees always make their combs hexagonal? Mathematicians sought the answer to this question. The best way of building a storehouse, but using the least possible amount of materials, is to make the walls hexagonal. Let us consider the other shapes. If bees built their combs as cylinders or as pentagonal prisms, then gaps would emerge between them and less honey could be stored in the combs. A honey store of triangles or squares. But here is the hexagon. For this reason, although they cover the same area, less material is needed for hexagons than for squares and triangles. But comb is the best shape for ensuring maximum storage with minimum wax. The fact about bees is their cooperation in building their comb. When someone sees a completed comb, imagine that if they start building their combs from completely different. Hundreds of bees set 3 or 4 different. They continue in the middle. There is no at the job. Bees also calculate the angle of the individual cells to each other when building. Back-to-back comb cells are always built at an angle of 13 degrees to the ground. That way, both sides of the comb slope upwards. This angle prevents go in the world. Honeybees manage this extraordinary architecture perfectly. Do it in the depth dark where sunlight cannot reach. Interesting truth here. Bees exhibit these They do not learn over time by observing the comb structure and direction. From the moment they possess. So who is teaching this architecture? Is given in the Holy Quran. Than the true path, he reveals the secret of honeybees' superb ability. Mountains and in the trees and in what they build. Then eat of all the fruits and walk in the ways of your Lord submissively. kind. Secret of animals' extraordinary skill by God. And these things. We see this more clearly when we examine other architects in nature. Assuredly, this place to be more accurate upon him. There was a hard by soil, but a very industrious group and made a great effort and built this pond. These industrious workers are the lovely animals known as beavers. A male and a female beaver moving off to make a new home for themselves. The pair will make their home on a river, but have to block the current. To do the same method, years, they build a dam. In building the, they first have these consist of tree logs and branches. They start going to forest beside the river. First, leaves from the tree fine. But their real task at the tree trunk. The interesting side of this is that they gnaw the trees in the direction of the water. The cut of the tree is still the job's crudest component. Later, the beavers split the tree up into its component branches and begin to form a dam by laying them out in front of the biggest log they have pushed over. all this time, the only tools they use are their paws and their mouths. This work continues with great patience. 2 beavers will cut down an average of 400 trees a year. They divide those trees further away from the dam into their separate branches and drag these to their dam. Beavers these front teeth get worn. Job. Its sharp front growing just like a person's nails. The Almighty God, who created beavers, also created their teeth for the job they would have to do. A beaver's body is created in such a way as to make it easier for them to swim in water. Their feet, so they can easily displace water. Their tail is like a giant paddle, thanks to which they can swim comfortably in the water. The beavers continue their building with great zeal. They expertly arrange the large tree branches and enlarge their dam a little more. As the dam a few months of forms behind the dam. Cracks. They carry out this difficult task with great patience. That emerges as the result of magnificent. Resembling those made by man, has been formed. Beavers make their dams concave. Because the form of a dam that best resists water pressure fact, the modern hydro today are also built. Beavers possess which time from the of their lives. So, knowledge. Doubt cannot come to build a dam by that will best resist water pressure by abilities. It is the Almighty God who gives the beaver the skills it possesses, who creates all living things and inspires what they do. The beaver's aim is where they can make their nest. They also make they're constructing the dam, or lodge as it's called, is at the edge of the pond, somewhere near the soil. It looks like a pile of wood when seen from above. Well designed. In order to get inside it, it is necessary to go through a hidden tunnel. This tunnel emerges the beaver family lives in this dry and secure chamber. Beavers build their lodge on 2 floors. The first floor is an entrance and living room. The upper floor, a dining room and bedroom. A beaver lodge has 2 underwater entrances and an air vent situated at the top. Inside this wonderful lodge, the beavers are not only protected from outside dangers, but also have a comfortable shelter. Their young open their eyes to the world inside the lodge. After they have grown a little, they begin to go outside with their parents and meet the world. When they are tired from swimming, what they like little pond, the 4 meters deep. To build their nest, a deep pond. Apparent in winter. If the pond is not deep enough, it will freeze right down to the base, and this would destroy the beaver's power of movement. The beavers, as if they know this, try to make the small lake as deep as possible. In this way, it remains under the ice. This is enough for the beavers to move and feed. When one considers, it's clear that what beavers do is true. These small creatures manage people could not special engineering training. So who is this? It is impossible to say that beavers are highly intelligent creatures. Nests. Concave design as the world's most modern hydroelectric dams. These tasks little animals intelligent. It is clear to the Almighty God, who creates all and inspires beings. His everyone in the heavens belongs to him. When we look at the other architects, let us have a look. Building blocks of the nest are bricks made from which worker termites in their saliva as the architecture of these. The inside of a termite's nest is full of narrow passages. In the depths of these corridors, some 1.5 million termites work together in great harmony. When we look at a cross-section of a nest, we see that there is a special chamber for the queen, agricultural areas, storehouses, and air conditioning passages. See to the construction of the nest, prepare to meet, as well as engaging in agriculture. The survival of such a large population, the stabilization of the nest's heat, parallel panels are built in the roof area of the termite nest. These panels, made of mud, through the nest's air conditioning channels. These panels in the termite nest perform a perfect air conditioning function. And there are other amazing examples of termites' construction knowledge. Another species of northern Australia makes nests in the shape of a dagger, very wide but with very fine. The nests are at such an angle that at noon the nest faces the sun, and thus heat is kept to a minimum. But termites, which are blind. So, how do you cannot see a centimeter in front? Construct these in one nest manage. A famous British in one of his documentaries.
Each worker places its position so we don't begin to understand.
This great understand, but which termites is the inspiration by are weaver birds, which build their nests by sewing blades. In order to build a nest, a weaver bird first forms a triangular framework. Kinds of knots. Each nest has a sound frame, walls, the first step in the construction of the nest is the tying of a long, thin blade of grass to a easy. The weaver bird has a real struggle to tie not to be in the correct construction of, because if the first will be wrong too, as they are all based on the first one. The knots multiply over time and take on the form of a hoop. The bird has to carefully calculate the dimension of the hoop it forms, but small enough to keep size for the hoop. After weaving the foundation hoop around it in this manner, it begins. Same as that. They weave the blades of grass by passing them under and over each. They employ this technique with great patience and eventually construct perfect nests. When one like giant cities made of hundreds of houses, not every single weave construction obeying another the honey with its architectural skill of wasp cellulose in other words, paper. It makes hexagonal at the roof. It places an egg into each hexagon on the roof. Some 3 weeks later, these eggs falling down under their own weight. After a few more weeks of growth, they emerge from their cell. The young wasps lose no time in throwing themselves into life. By their creator, God. Construct At the end, a rather large colony emerged. Is now will abide by the lesson. Belong to another species of wild bee. By mixing its saliva, soil, it makes by using them turning it around, the same technique. When the pod is finished, turns its rear towards the mouth of the pot and leaves an egg inside. After adding some food materials to the pot, it seals the mouth up and flies off. The larva which hatches from the egg can start a life of its own. Then abandoned. Start to build perfect pots, just like their mothers did, and with no training. This wonderful craft they possess, their creator. Spider thread is 5 large through that cannot and flexible trap of the spider web. There are sticky droplets on black. It's impossible for prey caught in these webs. The spider's web is sticky amazingly strong. Of the of every prey that gets produced in the spider's hindquarters. It is produced by a special organ with its legs. The sticky droplets on the surface of the thread are actually small bunches of thread, and the web easily stretches. There is no doubt that it's the inspiration God gives this creature that causes the spider to build this architectural marvel. In history, because in that period many philosophies with no scientific basis, such as Marxism, were imposed on mankind. Put forward by the British biologist published in Darwin suggested nature of blind. This theory appeared quite believable given the primitive level of 19th century science, and it was soon widely. However, modern scientific discoveries have demolished Darwin's claims. The science of and underwent no anatomy and biochemistry have proven that there are very complex structures in living things, and that these chance have revealed that nature does not possess the form species into one another. For these reasons, intelligent behavior observed in this film, a fact that overturns the evolution without undergoing the origin of species. Darwin the subject. At the very start of this section, entitled Instinct, he admits how intelligent animals to his theory. As a difficulty sufficient baffled by the architectural skills of the honeybee, and ask himself, what shall we say to so marvelous an instinct as to that which leads the bee to make cells, which have practically anticipated the discoveries of profound mathematicians? He suggested that a living creature's life must this habit. Thus, and inherited. Darwin was basing this argument on the theories of the French biologist Lamarck, who lived before him. Century showed that Lamarck's theory that no living thing can pass on to the next generation. This proved instinct was based on mistaken guesswork. Here's the problem. They are born. An animal which lacked the necessary instinct would be unable to survive. An offspring which did not possess this demonstrates that instinct cannot be out by evolutionists claim. Instinct evolution all by itself and had feared. In his book, The Great Evolution Mystery, the evolutionist writer themselves how an instinctive pattern of behavior given no answer. It is really impossible for evolutionists to explain as they think, but the inspiration God gives to live. Which are birds, which make apartment blocks out of paper, and thousands of other expert architects in nature. Exhibiting these surprising features reveal to us the skills which are actually given to them by God. Each one of them acts by God's inspiration, as is announced in a verse of the Quran. Creature he does not forth with the inspiration by in the world belong. That creature many people are aware of this fact. Achievements, they only feel amazement for those people themselves, whereas it is God who gives a human being his body and who inspires in him the senses of art. The marvelous works, which people see as man's masterpieces, are actually knowledge. For this reason, the real one we should truly praise in the face of every kind of aesthetic beauty and splendor is the Almighty, who created all these notions and who inspired these wishes and things. He reveals this fact in a verse of the Quran. The Lord of the heavens and the Lord of the earth, Lord of all the worlds, all greatness belongs to Him in the heavens and earth. He is the Almighty, the All-Wise.